What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing a react to this video right here. It's called He Learned 68 Languages Fluently in the Weirdest Way, and this one's from Fluency Formula. Now, if you have a look here, I'm already partway through the video. I've watched most of this, and I'm going to say that it's primarily just, you know, information about comprehensible input. Nothing really special in there, although he does cover off on a couple of famous polyglots and stuff and make statements about how they learn languages, which I actually don't know if true or not, but I haven't done enough research. But he does speak about one specific hyperpolyglot in here, which we will get to in a moment, and I have done a fair bit of research on that one, so I'm going to be able to comment on what he says about that.
What strikes me the most about these legendary polyglots is that they achieved their abilities by tapping into the same natural language acquisition processes we all used as children.
Okay, so from the different hyperpolyglots that I've investigated, okay, I'm going to tell you right now, none of them use the exact same method to learn a language. They all used different methods. However, what they generally did do was a lot of hard study. Okay, so they studied the language, its grammar, stuff like that, and then they went straight out into the field and they just tried to use it with people. So they were, one, actively studying the language, and then two, going and using the language. That's the only, commonality between all of them that I've seen so far.
Gradually building competence through comprehension rather than conscious study.
And that's wrong, okay? So the ones that I've actually investigated on this channel, done interviews with, etc., they've actually done study. In fact, that makes up a major portion of their progression and what they credit their progression to. Now, the ones who fake being hyperpolyglots, because I've looked into these ones as well, what they do is memorize basically scripts and become very good at managing a conversation and making sure it follows the direction that they want it to go. They lead the conversation. But for those who actually reach a pretty good level in multiple languages, no, they study and they generally use textbooks. They're pretty, down-to-earth paper users, basically.
Suggests that the human's brain capacity for language isn't limited by some magical number. It's limited by our methods and our environment. But here's a twist that might totally change your perspective. Most of these polyglots couldn't actually explain how they learned their languages. When asked about their methods, they'd often give vague answers about just picking it up or...
Well, I don't know which polyglots he's referencing, but the ones that I've investigated, 10 plus languages, and we've done interviews, they actually know exactly how they've done it, okay? And some of them even sell courses regarding how they did it. So they're pretty upfront about how they managed to do it. Now, the ones who try to hide their abilities in languages, they're the ones who get a little bit more mysterious about their methods, because they don't want to just tell you, well, what I've done is memorized a bunch of set phrases and structures, and I've managed to manipulate conversations and make it appear I'm more fluent than I actually am. But if you find the ones on my channel, there's plenty of videos of me doing, investigations into them. They're pretty upfront about how they managed to do it. And some of them even tell you it's tens of thousands of hours of work, okay? There's nothing easy about what they've managed to do. Those who get more than 10 languages at, just a reasonable level, they basically dedicate their entire life to this. So this is not some magic woohoo type magic going on here. It is hard work, constant hours of it, day in, day out, okay? So just keep that in mind. When you see someone, you need to think, okay, am I seeing someone who's actually really using this language, or are they just putting on a show for me? And if they're actually really using the language, then just know they put in a lot of hard work to get to where they are.
Listening and talking. What seemed like superhuman talent was actually their unconscious discovery of what modern linguists now call comprehensible input. The idea that we acquire language by understanding messages, not by studying language. Even more surprising?
Okay, before I go into this next part, I'm currently doing a Dreaming Spanish challenge following ALG, which is basically a pure comprehensible input methodology, okay? This is not the fast method. This is not how you learn a language fast. If you want to learn a language fast, I would not recommend this method. And other people who are honest about what they've managed to achieve via this method of just pure input, they would agree with me, okay? They would agree with me that, yes, Evildea, this is not the fastest method to do it. That's not what we're trying to push here. We've got our other reasons for why we reckon it's the superior or more effective method, but it's not for speed. If speed is what you're going for, then this ain't the method, okay? So don't think that you're going to learn a ton of languages in a short period of time using just pure input. That would just be stupid, okay?
Ziad Farza, a modern polyglot who claims fluency in 58 languages, has been called controversial precisely because some of his abilities don't hold up under formal testing.
Okay, that is the biggest fucking understatement I have ever heard in my life. Spencer, did you do any research here? Did you actually spend 5 minutes looking into this guy? You could have researched him yourself. In fact, one of his claimed languages is Mandarin Chinese, a language both you and I speak to a good enough degree to be able to critique his abilities, okay? So what I'm going to do now is we're going to swap over, see him on live TV doing response in Mandarin Chinese. Or, well, actually, he doesn't really respond to Mandarin Chinese. You'll see what I mean. Okay, so what we're about to watch is a Chinese, I believe, a cultural ambassador on TV actually asks a very simple question to Zihad, the guy that you just featured in your video saying that, you know, he's somewhat controversial. And he asks him what would be akin to maybe a beginner level question, or maybe a slightly more advanced beginner level question. Okay, just listen. I'll listen with you. So he's going to ask him a simple question. That's literally what he said.
在地球上，在月球上能够看到唯一的地球上的人造工程是什么？
Okay, so the simple question that he just asked him was, from the moon, what is the one man-made structure or object or thing, okay, that we can see, you know, of the Earth's man-made structure, okay? So we all know what the response to this is. The traditional response is the Great Wall of China. Now, we're not going to get into a debate about whether that is or isn't the thing, but that is the question, okay? Pretty simple. A low-level, I'm guessing maybe a HSK 3 level learner would be able to pick up on that, and that's still beginner level in Chinese, okay? And this is a guy who claims to speak a freaking all those languages, as you said, fluently.
Shoo!
So as you can see, he's sitting here, he's like, okay, okay. A little bit of a nervous wipe across the forehead. And then he said, I believe, 请你摇不摇? Which I think he was trying to, because like it doesn't really make sense. It's like, please you don't want. You know, like even you will understand that that is a really weird ass structure. And just from that one like short little piece right there, okay, if I stepped away, I would say this guy does not speak Mandarin Chinese. There was no tones in use there. The sounds were all completely off. And you can see that the Chinese cultural ambassador now is like, okay. Before I let him speak, you can literally see him trying to think about how to formulate this one question easier.
在月球上能够看到地球上的唯一的人造工程是什么？
So, the exact same question, okay? But although he slowed it down and he removed some of the information, but it's essentially the same question.
¿Dónde? Entonces, ¿qué le preguntó? Tiene razón. ¿Qué le preguntó? Sí.
Okay, so what do you think he's going to say? Now, I'm going to tell you straight up, okay? When I'm learning a language, if I don't fully understand the language, okay, let's say I know nothing at all, I'm going to react with a completely blindside face and be like, I have no idea what you just said. Now, let's assume that I'm a beginner in the language. I might pick up on the auxiliary verbs or some, you know, the pronouns or something like that. And I might be able to almost guess what you were trying to ask me. Now, if I'm at an intermediate level within a language, I might get the majority of it, but maybe miss a little bit here and there, but that's enough. At that point, I'm able to kind of figure out the general gist of what you're trying to ask me. So let's see how he responds.
¿Dónde aprendió los conocimientos del idioma chino? También, ¿en qué lugar usted
Read those subtitles.
lo absorbió con facilidad?
Does that sound like what he just asked? So, what he just said has absolutely zero goddamn relation with the question. Now, I just tore apart his Chinese. So here's another YouTuber, Luca, someone I believe you respect. He is another YouTuber who has done exactly what I just did, tore apart his responses to pretty much every language. So now I'm faced with this debacle, you see. Everything you've said in this video up until this point, I could not verify because I have not researched into it, except for the stuff about comprehensible input. I have a lot of experience with that. I can call bullshit on, that being like the fastest method, okay? But regarding the individuals that you were talking about, I cannot talk about. But now you've put this one in here, and now I know you have not done the research. Because if you had, there's no way in God's green goddamn earth you would slot this guy in here. He is a known fraud across the entire language learning community, okay? Most polyglots, I'd say there's a good portion of my audience who watch my videos who actually speak more languages than he did. Now, I'm not saying he didn't speak any languages, but there's a point where it stops being hyperbolic about your claims and just becomes outright fraud, okay? So I think he speaks realistically something like 4 languages, maybe more, I don't know, but it ain't whatever he originally claimed of 50 plus or whatever, okay? So that's not hyperbolic, that's just outrageously bullshitty, scammy, okay? And you're now propping him up, which makes you look bad. Anyone who's in the language learning community watches this portion of the video be like, dude, what are you doing?
This suggests that even among legendary polyglots.
Legendary polyglots. Oh my god, bro. You've just attached an anchor to yourself, stood by the edge of the ship and gone, what? I'm going in. Why would you back this guy? Why?
There's a spectrum of what fluency means, and perhaps
Okay, so if the spectrum now is beginner to fluent, and we can claim fluency when we absolutely know nothing about the language and we make up complete responses, then I'm fluent in a fucking 100 plus languages. You know what? Screw that. I'm fluent in every goddamn language that I can, list out in my mind. Okay? Because, well, it's all spectrum. It's all a fucking spectrum. Evildea, he's heard about ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics before. Well, he's technically never really studied them beyond looking at a textbook for 2 minutes. Doesn't matter. On the fluency spectrum, he's fluent. Just more towards the beginner section of the fluency. What the fuck is this shit, bro?
real magic isn't in perfect grammar, but in the confidence to communicate and to understand. These legendary polyglots weren't born with magical language genes.
No, most of them that I've investigated out there, they weren't born with magical genes and stuff like that. They were just outright frauds. Okay, they were just bullshit. Now there is actual legitimate ones out there. But my man, you have just featured one of the most obvious frauds in the world and put him in the list of your legendary polyglots. Please, I'm begging you, Mr. Fluency Formula Spencer, just do some research in the future. Stop spreading misinformation, okay? We don't need more of this crap. It's bad enough we got fucking AI out here making up this shit. And now you're doing it. Alright, anyway, that's the end of the video. Hope you guys liked the video. Make sure you sub to the channel if you want to hear more about, people who are actually legitimate polyglots. I have a list of the legitimate polyglots on my YouTube channel. You can go watch that video to get a realistic idea about what's humanly capable. Not, bullshit that's been spread from generation to generation type of thing. I'll see you all in the next video. And if you're not there, well, I'll be debunking your ass.